you described quite well that they value in-person meeting.
Yes.
So, like, Chamberlain should have just gone to Moscow.
Yeah, get on a plane.
Like, it's such a, maybe it's a simplistic notion, but that could have changed the trajectory of human history right there.
I really think it could have done. I think that's much more grievous mistake than Munich.
Why are leaders so hesitant to meet? I'm told now by a bunch of diplomats that no, there's a process. At first you have to have these diplomats meet and they have to draft a bunch of stuff. And I sometimes have this simplistic notion like, why not meet? Why not meet? Like, I think there is a human element there. Of course, especially when there's this force that is Hitler.
Well, yes, and because we humans, we like to interact.
Yeah.
And you like to see people in 3 dimensions. And, I'm sure that's why you always quite rightly insist on doing your podcast face to face. Because you want to get the cut of someone's jib and you want to be able to see them and you want to see the intonation and the expression and the whites of their eyes and all that kind of stuff. And that just does make a difference, of course, because, we're fundamentally animals and we want to be sizing people up. And it's much easier to do that when you're a few feet away from each other than it is on a video screen or through the prism of someone else.
Yeah, but there's also just, you see the humanity in others. It's so much easier. You see this in social media. It's so much easier to talk shit about others when you're not with them.
Yes.
And like, military conflict is the extreme version of that.
Yeah.
You can construct these narratives that they're not human, that they're evil, you can construct communist ideology, all these, you can project onto them the worst possible version of a human. But when you meet them, you're like, oh,
they are just a person.
They're just a person.
Well, it's the world's great tragedy that it's only a few people that want to go to war and the vast majority want to live happily, contented lives getting on with their neighbors. I mean, it has been ever thus. It is those few that kind of ruin it for everybody else. But anyway, to go back to Leningrad, back in August 1939, they go half cock. They're disrespectful to Soviet Union as a result of that. It gets nowhere. Had they been able to put on a really, really firm offer there and then to the Soviet Union would have probably come in. I mean, the big thing is that the Soviet Union said, this is a big stumbling block. The Soviet Union said, yeah, but we want to be able to march through Poland if we get threatened by Germany.
Mm-hmm.
But the British and the French just smell a massive rat there. They're basically saying, if they agree to that, what they fear is that the Soviet Union will just march into Poland and go, yeah, but you said we could, and take it, which they unquestionably would have done. But it would have stopped the World War, probably.
They're willing to appease Hitler. They're not willing to appease Stalin in that situation.
Well, they're not willing to appease anybody by that stage. That's the point.
Well, they appeased Hitler.
Because they did the year before, but there's a bottom line, which is Poland. So it's changed. That's the point.
Right.
But anyway, the bottom line is they don't. There is a reluctance on the part of the French and the British to negotiate with the Soviet Union because they're communists. They don't like them. Don't trust them. Worry about what they're going to do with Poland, and they're going to be, jumping out of the fire into the kind of water, and it doesn't come off. And as a consequence of that, the Soviet Union continue to pursue more hardly, more vociferously, the opportunities that the Germans are offering, which is this split of Poland, because the Soviet Union wants that part of Poland back in its own sphere of influence, and it doesn't want to go to war just yet.
And the agreement that they won't attack each other, essentially.
Yeah.
Do you think Stalin actually believed that?
No, he believed it in the same way that Hitler believed it, that it was a cynical kind of, convenient bit of realpolitik for now. I mean, I think Soviet Union was as determined to get rid of the Nazis as the Nazis were determined to get rid of the Soviet Union. I think whoever fired first was not decided at that point, but I do think that from the moment that Hitler takes power in 1933, a conflict between the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany is inevitable.
Yeah, so either direction, you think it's inevitable.
Yeah.
I think there's a huge amount of evidence for that. Stalin probably wanted it, like in 42, 43?
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, and they're doing exercises and stuff and building out. He's not ready yet because he knows he's done the purges and he's got to get his army. He's got to get his armed forces back into shape and all the rest of it. But so they have this incredibly cynical agreement. But at that point, Hitler's hands are untied. He no longer has to worry about the threat from the Soviet Union. He's got carte blanche to go into Poland, and he doesn't believe that France and Britain are going to go to war over Poland. He's wrong about that, obviously. But France and Britain, despite going to war with him, still do nothing. So, he's got away with it.